Hey everybody, it's Mary and Warren, and it's a rainy night in Phoenix, so we thought we'd have a cocktail and talk to you guys tonight. So, what we thought we would discuss are some of the commonly overheard photography roadblocks that we read about from people on in our group, in other photography groups, and things that they've said have kind of hindered them moving forward in the photography world.
Yeah, I think it'd be great to talk about the roadblocks and the things that we hear from our community and kind of get things out in the open and maybe get past these roadblocks and get you on your photographic journey.
Yeah, our hope is to get you some inspiration and some motivation to get out there, pick up your camera, and really start pushing yourself.
Yep, that's the only way to improve is to get out there, believe in yourself, and get to shooting and get improving.
Yeah, so one of the first most heard roadblocks that we've heard from you guys is it's hard when you compare yourself to others. You're on social media, you see some amazing photographs, and you kind of just throw in the towel and say, well, I'm not going to be able to make that image. And I think that is a big hurdle to overcome, and we just wanted to give some tips on maybe ways to overcome that hurdle.
Definitely. I've seen a lot of people give up for comparing themselves to other photographers, getting frustrated with the whole science and the whole artistic part of photography. So it's some things. I think we have some pointers that can help you get over that roadblock and get moving forward. So the first thing I'd like you to do is recognize where you're at on your photographic journey. No one is in the same spot that you're at right now. We may have been there or we might be headed there, but realize that when you're comparing yourself out on the internet, these may be photographers that have got a big background in photography, have gone farther on their journey than you are right now, but they started there. You know, they've been in your shoes and they started the first time they picked up a camera is the same way you felt when you picked up your camera. So don't give up, just recognize where you're at. Take a look at those that are maybe in the same area of the journey that you are, and look at those photographs and understand that you're maybe not doing such a bad job.
Yeah. And another thing to do is maybe just take a break from social media for a little bit. Take a break at looking at other people's images and really start to focus on your work, on your images, how you can improve. So, we spend a lot of time on our phones. And if you're constantly looking at other people's social media, you're taking away from the time that you could be using to improve your skills.
Absolutely. I think we suffer that way even outside of photography. The social world online has caused a lot of comparison. I think a lot of people have body image issues because they're comparing themselves. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think just shutting it off and walking away and counting your blessings for what you've got and where you're headed, and put your heart into really what you want to do instead of looking at things that are just not important.
Yeah, and once you put your phone down, you can, like I said, really get out there and work on your photography. And one place to start is you can start studying composition, start studying storytelling. How are you gonna improve your photography with composition, with light, with storytelling? Those are some I think some really overlooked aspects of what make an image an image. People really focus on exposure and the gear and the tools, but I think if you start studying with composition, some light and some storytelling, putting everything else down, you're really gonna start seeing maybe some improvement in your photography.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the hardest part of photography is composition and storytelling. You can get the science. You can understand why your settings have to be a certain way in certain conditions. I think through practice you get there. But you might be able to make a great exposure, but you might not be making a great image because your composition and your lack of storytelling is just not there. And that's really focusing on that and looking at compositions and looking at other people telling stories and thinking about how your images can be like that. That will get you that next step. You're telling yourself, okay, I got a great exposure, but nobody likes my images. It may be that composition. I've seen that a lot when people say, hey, critique my image or in in competitions. It's kind of like, well, what are you trying to tell me? Why is that tree where you put it? You have to kind of stop and think about that a little bit and get in there and study it, study others, study the great ones, study art, not photography, just painted art. They put a lot of thought into that one composition and look at them and see how they're laying things out. And you'll start to get that, I think, embedded lifestyle in your head. Like you start thinking about composition all the time.
Yeah, I agree. But I think really the main tip that we can give here, when you're comparing yourself to others, is just get out and practice. Apply what you are learning, and do it as often as you can. I think if you find other photographers in your area to share images with, they may be able to give you some good feedback. And, if you do find a photographer that you do appreciate and that you do like, you can reach out to them and see if they're maybe willing to mentor you.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's how I started my wedding photography career. I knew it was a passion I had. I could take a good picture, I could compose, but I didn't know the story of a wedding, and how photographers went about capturing that. And I studied under a gentleman in my area for 2 years before I ever went out on my own, just to learn and be mentored, and that bond, that friendship is still today, many, many years later, and we have that bond. We have worked
studied under this guy here.
I studied under her. She's the one that taught me artistic and composition.
Well, you start me the other stuff.
But sharing that passion, sharing that love for photography, and talking about it, having someone just to talk it out and throw ideas to each other. That's what a great mentor does and helps you improve quite a bit.
Yeah. So once you start pushing past comparing yourself to others, one of the other big hurdles we hear all the time is not having all the equipment you need, or not having the money to buy that equipment. And we understand this. As a photographer, you want the latest, you want the greatest. We've heard of it referred to as gas gear acquisition syndrome. You want all the gear. You see somebody online who made an image and they used this 135 millimeter lens, and you're like, I need to have that lens. Look how beautiful that picture is. But I think we need to slow down a little bit and learn to use what we have.
Yeah, you absolutely. I mean, photographers, God bless them. The manufacturers of cameras and lenses count on us wanting new stuff all the time. That's their profit line, right? But you have to learn what you have. If it's a beginner camera, and I have one rule with hobbies and tools, that I buy the cheaper stuff, and if I wear it out, then I deserve a better one. So if I have a cheap drill and I've used it so much that it stopped working, that means I'm using it. That means it's important to me. So then I spend the extra dollars and get that little nicer drill that I've always wanted. So it's kind of the process of, don't overspend to think it's going to fix your photography. Not every hobby has this. Just learn what you have. If you have the basic hand-me-down DSLR that someone gave you, wear it out. Go out there and shoot until you know every button, every reason, and the basic understanding, the foundations of photography doesn't change when you buy a new camera. You still have f-stop, ISO, shutter speed. Those things that are just foundational will never change. Yeah, a better lens will make a better image, but are you ready for that step? And can you afford it?
Yeah.
I mean, we have an expensive hobby.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I think one thing you need to ask yourself before you purchase a new, say, camera or lens or piece of gear is, why are you buying it? Are you buying it because somebody on YouTube said it was the greatest piece of gear and you need to have it? You need to know what you shoot and what limitations you are having with your gear. Don't buy something because somebody told you to buy it or you saw a great picture, but say, you know what? I'm taking pictures of my kids' sports, and this kit lens is just not fast enough to allow me to get the shutter speed I need. Like, really think about why you're buying something new and be intentional about your purchases, and that'll save you some money. Don't just throw your money around because you heard this is the next greatest thing without really understanding how it's going to benefit you.
Yeah, I think you hear that a lot on social media. You'll see other photographers telling you, oh, how great this lens is, you must buy it. Oh, it's exactly what you want. But is that the kind of photography you're doing? Is that really going to improve your photography? And I mean, just sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But then you have to look at, okay, if I make this investment, is it what I want to do? Mm-hmm. I mean, some portrait lenses can run you $2,000 or $3,000 just for the lens. Yes, they're beautiful. They create great bokeh. I mean, just buttery smooth. But is that the type of photography you want to do? Are you trying to get into business? Is it going to generate money? I mean, these are very expensive tools when you get down that path. When you start comparing your images to someone who has a $3,000 lens, there might be a big difference. But is that where you're headed? Is that where your heart is? And are you going to buy it, cherish it, and keep it, or is it going to be a mistake? That's another thing that we look at, and we always recommend is that if you're really serious about something, a new camera body, a new lens, that's a pretty big purchase, a painful one, to go out and rent it. It's, $100, $200 for the week might save you a big mistake. And I've done that. I've done where I thought I wanted a specific lens, and like the zoom and the focus were switched on that model, and it drove me crazy. Like, my hand was always in the wrong place. And I thankfully didn't make that purchase. It saved that $2,500 purchase because I knew I wouldn't be happy. It's just not my muscle memory, so I sent it back.
Or it might just be a lens that you need for one assignment. Yeah. Let's say you're getting a job to do something, and it's maybe something that you don't typically shoot. You may just want to borrow that lens or rent that lens through Borrow Lens.
Link in description.
Yeah.
To save you some money.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like our time we went and shot the Eagles. Mm-hmm. And we knew it was a one time a year kind of event, but there was no way we were going to put $40,000 into lenses, and that's what we rented. And then we were thrilled to have these big, gorgeous lenses. We went and did our event, packed them back up, shipped it back, let other people use it for another year, and we didn't have to make those payments.
Yeah. And another thing I think I want to emphasize, too, is that we do get so caught up in the technology and the gear, we forget that some of, like I mentioned just previously, some of the biggest factors and some of the greatest photographs are the light, the composition, the storytelling, and those things. If you really understand those and can conceptualize an image with those things, then no matter what kind of camera you have, it doesn't matter. You should still be able to capture, a great image if you have really successfully learned light composition and storytelling.
Yeah, and without those, you could go spend $7,000 on a camera setup. Without that foundation, that understanding, you'll still have bad pictures. You'll just be broke while you do it.
Yeah, yeah. So don't get caught up in gear. Learn what you have first, and save and really understand why you're buying, future gear. So
yeah, I think that's key.
Yeah. So with that being said, one of the next hurdles that we hear all the time is not having, again, the time or money to travel to these exotic and beautiful locations.
Yeah, that's always hard, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You look at the beautiful images, you're out on social media, and you're like, yeah, I'm not in Ireland. I'm not in California right now.
Yeah.
How am I going to afford to travel around? I have a job, kids, and a house mortgage to pay. How am I going to do that?
Yeah, so what you're going to have to do is look for beauty where you're at. Beauty can be found anywhere. It could be found in the littlest things in your yard, like the way sunlight is reflecting off a blade of grass, or how little insects are moving around your backyard, or the flowers that you have growing. But just walking around your block and looking for and finding gratitude in the beauty near you.
Yeah, that's very true. You can always find something to photograph. One of the challenges I love to do is go out and find something that's not picturesque, right? Not photogenic. and take your camera and lens and spend a couple hours just walking around looking for a shot, looking, what can I make that would, in your mind, think, wow, that would look great on the wall, just something abstract or something close up, or like you say, you may not have a beautiful location, but if you look really close at a beautiful flower, all of a sudden you have beauty, right?
Right.
Beauty's always there. You just have to find it.
Yeah, some of the most beautiful images are very simple images, in my opinion. Of course, that's subjective. So look for just the simple things. And another thing I've heard from designers is that people are looking for images of when they're decorating their homes of their hometown images, building, landmarks, things that are specific to that hometown. So go around your hometown, create some images capturing what your town has to offer, even if it's not, some coastal historic town, with, I don't know, it's still of value to the people who grew up and are living in that hometown. So don't be afraid to walk around your hometown and capture the people and the places there.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in the Midwest, from some of the smallest towns you could imagine, and they had a lot of history in them. I mean, they had old buildings and paintings and old churches, and you just walk around, and I think people appreciate you appreciating their small town. So I think even when we went down to Bumblebee in Arizona, which is a 4-house town, we were passing through to go on a trail, but we stopped. There was some very cool architecture in there, and someone came out, and of course they were concerned, what are you doing? You've got a group of 3 or 4 cars that just pulled over the side, and they want to know what you're up to. And once we explained that we were just appreciating their town and the history that it had, they invited us into the town, into this little community center that was actually a stage stop. And it was Wyatt Earp had actually guarded that stage stop and walked on that floor. And that was kind of like, wow, that's kind of cool. Without stopping and appreciating, you could have blown right through this town, made no difference to you, But once you stopped and appreciated it, you got access to stories and history and something. I mean, they opened the community center for us, which was kind of a thanks for the access. It was like a special access to see this old stagecoach and the old flooring. It was so cool.
Yeah.
I just think about the spurs walking across that old floor.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was so cool.
And another thing that people, say in the same respect is that, all these, we can't travel these beautiful locations, or everybody's already photographed that location. So the nice thing about going around your hometown is you're sharing a piece of where maybe somebody has not been yet. Everybody sees the same iconic images of the same places, but a lot of people haven't seen the smaller hometowns. So.
Yeah, that's true. Very cool.
Yeah. So get out there, find the beauty around you. If you look close enough, you'll find it. One of the next hurdles is, I think, something that everybody's experienced at some point in their photographic journey is a lack of self-confidence.
Yeah, I think we've all struggled with that. But no, I think we all still struggle with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's never an ending thing. But I think the first thing you have to remember, and we said it before, is remember where you're at on your journey. Don't have over inflated expectations of your images when you're just starting. Start appreciating what you can do instead of what you can't do. Yes.
And practice is going to build confidence. And this is going to be a theme of this video. You're going to hear us say a lot, practice, practice, practice. But that is really where you're going to learn, where you're going to better yourself, where your confidence is going to come from, because you're going to start building that muscle memory, and you'll be able to get out in the field and know exactly what your settings need to be. But if you don't practice, you're not going to get to that point.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's our theme. It's our total theme of you have to use the camera. And we said this even when we were teaching face-to-face in our studio. The students were like, the last thing we'd ever say is, reminder, don't put your camera away. Don't put it away. Don't put it in the closet. Don't put it in the bag. Set it out. Make it your friend. Make it your travel buddy. Because if you stop using it, you just kind of, if they say, if you don't use it, you lose it, right? And so we just can't overemphasize this is your third hand, your third eye. You're going to record things through your camera as your day goes along, and it'll just become muscle memory. It'll just become part of you. So
yeah, and one thing that'll help you build that self-confidence and will maybe inspire you to get out and practice is by setting challenges and bucket lists for yourself. Set some goals. Like today I'm going to go out and I'm going to learn about I'm going to take pictures specific to the rule of thirds, or I'm going to go out and I'm going to learn the exposure triangle. Set goals. As you reach those goals, you're going to feel the sense of accomplishment, and that sense of accomplishment is just going to help boost that confidence.
Yeah, accomplishing things. My suggestion is share your images. Share your accomplishments with your friends and family. And I'm talking about those that care about your photographic journey. We all have the people that believe every image you take is a beautiful image. Even when you're sitting there shaking your head going, no, it's not. Somebody, like grandma or mom, might say, oh, you're just a wonderful photographer. And that's great to hear.
It's going to boost your confidence.
You're going to boost your confidence.
Good. Like, share with those people so you have that.
But find people that really care about your photographic journey. That keeps you well-grounded and on your path, right? You want to be able to see the reality, the truth behind your images, and hear someone say that, yeah, you did get a great shot, and it's real. That's what my biggest thing is. I know that's a real compliment. That's not a thumbs up on Facebook and everybody, the whole community loves it. It's a real face-to-face kind of compliment that can really boost your confidence. That's the way I felt when I was shooting weddings. When my pictures went from in the delete pile and they started going into the album, I started to feel that confidence that I could do this. I could be this wedding photographer that I wanted to be, and it spurred a 25-year career of shooting weddings. So
yeah,
you just have to build it. The confidence just doesn't come overnight. You have to build it up in yourself.
So some challenges that maybe you could set for yourself is you can aim to have an annual calendar. So each month you take the best image from that month and you create a calendar. You could do people do like a weekly theme. We have a weekly theme on our Facebook community group, Exploretography. Every week we put a theme out there, and the challenge is to go make an image that relates to that theme. So you could do something like that. There's a multitude of ways you can create challenges for yourself. Yeah. But our goal, our challenge to you is to go write down 5 goals right now of things that you want to do in photography. And for the next year, kind of work on those goals.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing we'll tell you is if we can do it, you can do it. So we believe in you. Get out there and use your camera, exercise your photographic brain, build that foundation. Sooner than you think, you'll be taking great pictures and you'll be feeling great about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next roadblock that we want to talk about is something I know, again, that we have all experienced is lack of time. So we know it's important to prioritize our time. And if photography is something that's important to you and you really want to grow in this, you're going to have to make it a priority. So that might mean you don't spend an hour scrolling through Facebook or spending, a whole night on Netflix, binging a whole, show. It may mean you trade that time for getting your camera out, playing with your camera. Now, we do realize that there are people who have multiple jobs to support a family and they have those children to care for. They might be in college. We know everybody has situations where they may just not have the time, but you'll have to find somewhere to squeeze it in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really comes down to, do you want this? Do you really want this to happen? I think it happens in anything that we do in our lives, that we have to decide, is it worth our time? Is it worth our effort? And how bad do you really want it, right? You're going to get out there and do this, or are you just going to say, well, I kind of tried and I'm just going to sell my camera now? Which would be sad. So don't do that. Get out there and do it.
Don't do that. Yeah, some ways that you can maybe, in those situations where really it's not that you're, spending time on your phone or doing this or that, but maybe while you're driving to work, you can listen to a photography podcast or some type of photography training. While you're doing your chores, again, put on that podcast, put on some training. Keep your camera with you at all times. As you're walking out the door, throw your camera in the car with you. That way, let's say you have a 15-minute break at work, you can go out to the car, practice some settings, do something like that. Keep your camera near you at all times. So we know it's hard sometimes, but also know that there are different seasons in your life. So why this week, this month may be very busy for you, don't set this aside. Don't just say, I'm not going to do it, I don't have the time, because you know what, in a couple weeks that timeline might change and you might have some time. So don't give up on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I compare it to playing the guitar. I love music. Never picked up I bought a guitar. I never practiced that much. Felt like I didn't have the talent for it. And now 20 years later, I still can't play the guitar. It sits in the corner. It looks really nice, but I still can't play the guitar. But was it truly a priority? And that's what, when I started photography, before even podcasts were out or internet was available, I had a little recorder that I would record the sessions, the training sessions live one-on-one. Like if you go up to your, Chicago or whatever and sit through a week of training, I'd record them on small cassettes and then put earbuds in and just play them over and over and over. Just that clearly I wanted. So like Mary said, you got to make time and you got to keep your camera near you at all times so you can take pictures. Like we said before, there's always beauty everywhere. You could be sitting, in a waiting room and find something to photograph, or you can practice your settings or look at your menus and get comfortable with your camera. A lot of times it's become my comfort zone. Like if I have to give a big talk, I'm sure to have a camera in my hand because that's just how comfortable I am with it. It's just part of me. So
yeah. So the next hurdle that we hear a lot is not having the knowledge, which again is understandable, especially if you're in the beginning of your photo journey, or people being sick of going online and asking, a question, being told to just look it up on YouTube or just Google it. So,
why don't you Google it? And a lot of people can Google it and still not make sense of what they're looking at, or what they're trying to understand. So,
right. But you're going to have to remember that you're going to get what you put into it. So if you're lacking knowledge, you're going to have to put some work in to get that knowledge. It is an investment, and you're going to have to invest your time into learning the skills.
Absolutely. There is no silver bullet to this hobby, this passion, this craft. There's no perfect setting for every lighting condition. You don't want to hear, go look it up on YouTube when you're in a social group. But you see all the time that people are like, I'm shooting my first wedding. What should I set my camera on?
Right.
The wedding's always evolving in different light, in different situations. There is no perfect setting that covers the entire day. You're going to have to learn to do it. And it's not an overnight process. It really isn't. It's been, like I say, I've been in this 40 some years and I still learn every day something that either I've forgotten or I hadn't picked up yet. It's always a learning hobby.
Yeah.
This craft.
So it's something that you're going to, like we said, have to put some time into. And we recommend maybe creating a learning action plan. Like where are you now? What is your goal? How are you going to reach that goal? So I think the first thing you need to understand when you're going to start learning anything new is what is your learning style? Are you somebody who does benefit from going and watching YouTube videos? You can watch it and get it. Are you somebody who prefers to read? Is it a manual or some type of book that's going to give you that knowledge? Or are you somebody who needs like hands-on, maybe one-on-one mentoring, some type of hands-on learning? So once you determine what your learning style is, then you can start creating that action plan. If you know that you are going to need some hands-on activities to help you learn, you can look into like local photography classes. Many are taught through like Parks and Rec, community colleges. You can look on Groupon, ask photography groups, try to find a small a group. Yeah,
getting out there. If you are that hands-on person and find that group. If you're looking for things to read, the internet is a wide open book right now. There are a lot of great sites that will tell you factual information. Getting out there, in YouTube if you are visual. Like I a lot of times I need to see it to understand it. So YouTube's a great place to learn things as well. And then there's programs that you can purchase, but that comes down to, am I dedicated to learn this? And again, like Mary said, it's what you put into it is what you could get out of it. So you can't buy a whole plan, a study system, and then not do it and expect success out of that. But
yeah, and we would love to hear what knowledge items you're having problems with. If we can make a video, if we can write a blog, if there's some kind of value that we can add, please put it down in our comments below. We would love to hear what you're struggling with as far as knowledge. And if we can help out, we can. We do want to say to those people who are sick of photographers saying, oh, Google it, find it on YouTube. There's maybe a kinder way to get that message across, but just remember, some of these people that you're asking for knowledge from have spent a lot of money learning their hobby, a lot of time, and for them to give it away may not seem fair to them, and that's okay. But if you do continue to keep asking, there are other people who are open with sharing that as well. So always keep asking, and don't feel offended if somebody's not willing to share, because they probably have a reason to, and that's their prerogative.
Yeah. I mean, I think they get frustrated hearing the same question over and over, because groups like on Facebook can get very large, and then all of a sudden you're answering the same question over and over. But again, it's also kind of sad, because we all started there, right? Some of us aren't great at looking up things, and we just kind of need a jump start to, where do I start to even start to research this, right? If you're completely lost about a camera, I don't know what the next thing is to study or what I should be doing. So like Mary said, we're here for you. If you have questions, come out, join our community. We're happy to answer whatever we can and share everything that we know. We love this craft, and we want to go forward. So we'd love you to be part of that. So get out there and join our community, and let's talk. Let's talk photography.
Yeah. And we're gonna keep moving on our list of hurdles. We're getting close to the end here, but we're having a great time chatting with you guys tonight. Another hurdle that we hear a lot is people who just have a hard time finding that creativity or finding a style, and it's tricky because when you first start out, you'll want to just shoot everything. You're going to be photographing landscapes, maybe portraits and buildings, and you're just so excited to have your new camera and be able to take all these great images. You might be all over the place. But eventually you're going to be like, you know what? I want to go back out and shoot more wildlife. That's really, where I feel some passion, and you'll start honing in on a genre. We were, for a long time, wedding photographers,
portrait photographers. But coming out here, finding the beauty of the Southwest, we're starting to become landscape photographers. It's really where you want to focus and where you want to put your effort into learning, and it just evolves. Like Mary said, it evolves over a lifetime. It evolves during this journey. You jump in and shoot everything, and then you compare yourself to others. And then you're looking for Lightroom presets, because I want light and airy or dark and groomy, or where's my style? You're all over the place. You're trying to look for it, and it's not an easy thing to find. No. And it really depends on what you're shooting and what you're interested in. It may be high contrast black and white. It might be high key portraits. It might, you never know what your passion's going to be. But when you see it, you're going to feel it.
Yeah,
that's what I'm like. The images that I'm most proud of tend to be what I think I'm interested in. Like, wow, I shot that, or whatever. It's just another image, but you'll feel it.
Yeah, as your seasons change through, like when you're younger, you may need to support a family, and so you really want it to be a business. And being a business, well, am I going to shoot photography? Am I going to shoot portraits, children, babies, whatnot? But as your life changes, you're getting closer to retirement. Well, I don't really need to support family off of it. I just want to do it more for myself. We're traveling a lot now, and it becomes more landscape, less people, and so that's going to evolve over the lifetime. But as you start to narrow that field, or you find your passion, a genre, 2 genres that you really connect with, then at that time, it's a good time to study other photographers' styles that inspire you. Yeah. Look at their images. What about their images is speaking to you? With that being said, you can create mood boards like on Pinterest and start like, oh, I really like this feeling, or I really like this kind of composition, and really study those, and then take inspiration from that and emulate it in your images. And when we say that, we're not saying copy this image. We're saying draw from that image. What inspires you about it? And somehow try to emulate that when you're creating your art.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, what you evolved to be. My beginnings was looking at magazines, right? It was like looking how other paid professionals shot what I was interested in, and looking at catch lights in the eyes, and looking at all the things that are details in that image, and just, again, not copying it, but understanding it, understanding the composition, understanding what that photographer is trying to tell in that visual story, and trying to apply it to your life and to your craft. So it will evolve. We promise you it will. You'll find what you love to do. You may be trying a lot of things. We sure as hell, surely did a lot. I think you need a lot of different types of photography.
I think you need to experiment in those different genres to really find where your passion lies and where you don't want to be.
and we're not saying you can't dabble in a different genre. I mean, we may not be macro photographers, but we love to find a bug crawling on a flower. Mary would be, down on her hands and knees trying to get this picture
for like an hour.
But we don't claim to say that we're macro photographers. It's don't limit yourself, but try to find what you're really interested in.
Yeah. And once you have the images, play with different editing styles and softwares. As Warren said, there's a lot of presets out there, but there's, you'll, again, as you practice and you play with different editing techniques, you're going to really start to find how you like your images to look. And keep in mind that there's a lot of different editing softwares out there. So go try different types. Most of them will have like a free 30-day trial. Just, mark your calendar when it's time to cancel so you know. But play with those 30-day trials out there and see what you like.
Yeah. And your editing software is just like your camera. The more time you spend with it, the more effort you put into it, the more you'll understand, what you need to do to find your style.
Yeah. So another thing that people struggle with when it comes to their photography journey is getting sharp images. And I will say this is definitely true in the beginning. We see this a lot. Yeah. And one of the things, and you're going to laugh, that we tell everybody when we start our beginning photography classes is that it's really important to hold the camera correctly for better stabilization.
Absolutely.
It doesn't seem like a big deal, but it really is. And so when we say hold the camera correctly for better stabilization, we mean by putting your hand under your lens and bringing your camera close to you. So we see a lot, even, we'll joke, in movies, a lot of places, where the photographer is holding their camera like this, and it's, if you do it, I mean, a lot of us have done it, a lot of us still do it, but what happens is then your arm here is kind of flailing off to the side, and it's not as stable as if you pull it in and have your camera close to you. So
chicken wing.
Yeah, it's like a chicken wing, and especially if you have longer lenses, like, just try, and it might take a while to get used to changing it from here to here, but just try holding it under here, bringing it in close to you, and it's going to offer you better stabilization.
Yeah, and in that theme and that theory, also you have to think of yourself as a tripod. Tripod has 3 legs. It has 3 points of contact to the earth to hold your camera stable for very long exposures. When you're shorter exposures, you're the tripod. You're the item that's holding that camera stable. And one of the things that I also see is people overutilizing the LCD for composition. They're this, and then if you add this into the situation, your camera's free floating out here. It's got no points of contact. But if, like Mary said, you cup your hand and put your lens in it, you pull your elbow tight into your chest. You've got this one tight into your chest. And then if you utilize the eye viewfinder, you've got 3 points of contact on your body that this camera's now not flailing around, and you're going to get much sharper images. I mean, it kind of disturbs me a little because we've accepted this pose that people are saying now that, oh, your shutter speed's going to be twice as fast as your field of view of your millimeters, right? So if you have an 18 millimeter, instead of 1/8, of course, not 1/18 is not going to do well, but now they're like 1/36. Or if you have a 200 millimeter lens, it used to be, 1/200 would give you a good shutter speed to be stable because you're doing this. But now they're saying 1/400 because you're doing this.
Yeah.
And they said accepting it, I think, getting back to the basics, right? Getting back into where you pull your camera in tight and you want a sharp image. Nothing ruins an image more than not being sharp or out of focus. It's really almost impossible to correct.
Yeah. And so really this brings us to, as Warren's saying, like you want to have a fast enough shutter speed to have a sharp image. Some people will look at an image and be like, oh, it's blurry, my focus was off. No, a lot of the times it's blurry because the shutter speed's not fast enough. So I would recommend that if you're starting out, and let's say you have the kit lens that came with your camera, regardless of what your millimeters are, especially if they're under 100 millimeters, I would recommend you starting with your shutter speed, not going any slower than 1/100th of a second if you're hand holding it, just until you get used to your gear and photography and really starting to understand light and the whole process. But you could probably handhold at 1/60th of a second just fine. But once you start going below 1/60th of a second, you're really going to see some motion blur there. So if you're a beginner starting out and your images are not sharp, look at your shutter speed. If they're below 1/100th of a second, try to increase that shutter speed, make it faster to capture it. If your images are dark, then you might have to boost your ISO, but start there for a shutter speed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that was always our go-to was 100th or 1/60th of a second. Never go below that. You either put a flash on or you put it on the tripod. That was kind of the olden days. I know it was film, but it was the golden rule. Don't go past 1/60th. And I think it still applies. If you get that camera in tight, don't just set it out here and expect it to be sharp. It'd be kind of like twirling your camera and expecting a great image. I mean,
And then just keep in mind, like the bigger the lens, the longer the millimeters, then you're gonna even want to use a faster shutter speed.
Yeah, and that's a lot because that lens is now zooming in and it's magnifying the movement. So even your breathing you'll be seeing that camera shake. So you have to be aware of what your millimeter is and compensate for that.
Yeah. Another thing that you can do is use image stabilization on your lens if it's something that your lens allows, especially if your camera is not on a tripod. If your camera is on a tripod, then don't do that.
Yeah, you have to disable it. The camera will start when you have image stabilization on, the camera thinks you're hand holding it. When you put it on a tripod with it on, it's trying to find stabilization when it's already stable. So it's kind of fighting itself, and your images will get that little shake blur into it.
Yeah.
And we've made that mistake, so trust me.
Yeah.
If you're on a tripod, shut it off.
Absolutely. And the next thing you're going to want to do is really study the focus modes and settings on your camera to understand how and where your camera is focusing. So, that we could talk forever on focus modes, but we're just trying to kind of highlight, ways to help get sharp images. Just look at your camera manual, look at your settings, play with them, and start learning what feels right for you and works best in your images.
Yeah, focus modes can really get confusing these days. Technology has taken these things to a new level. Sometimes it's great, sometimes I don't know if we need all that, but you have to understand, how do I shoot? What am I shooting? How fast is my subject moving? You have to understand what focus mode goes with what kind of subject. It comes with experience, but out of focus is like an unsharp image. It's just kind of not good.
Yeah. And another factor that's going to help your images be sharper, look sharper, is good lighting. With good lighting, you're going to be able to use lower ISOs. which are going to create less noise. So you're not going to have that noise, but good lighting. Dark rooms are going to leave your images really flat and muddy looking, but good lighting, you're really going to see assists in achieving those sharp images.
Yeah, and good lighting comes with finding good lighting. So starting to understand what is good lighting, where does it come from, what angle should it be coming from, what flatters your subject the best, what kind of mood do you want to put into your image. All those things play into light. I mean, the craft is recording light. That's what we do. We're telling a story by recording light. So the first thing we have to do is find the good light. A bad light, a diffused light, it might impact the sun hitting your lens at the wrong angle might impact your sharpness. So just kind of get an understanding of what good light is. But I think the one thing we overlook, and a lot of times, is a clean lens.
Yeah.
Sometimes a fingerprint on the front of your lens will cause it not to be sharp. Always kind of take a look at the front of your front element. Make sure there's no, obvious big clumps of gunk sticking on there. A lot of times I'll have my hood on just to keep my fingers off the element, like just to keep my hands from hitting that thing. And in the middle of, in the moment of trying to take a picture, and all of a sudden you get back and you got some big old goober on the front.
Or raindrops.
Or raindrops. That'd be today, wouldn't it? I think it'd float away today. It's been so rainy.
Yes, for sure. And the last thing that we hear about a lot is lack of a support system. And that's really important. So if you don't have a cheerleader, so to speak, you'll want to go find one. It really helps. It helps boost the confidence. It just helps to have somebody who understands where you are in your journey and who wants to help you. It's horrible when you have people telling you, why are you spending money on this? You're no good. Or people have already taken that picture. Why do you want to take that picture? You need to remove those noises and those people from your head, especially when it comes to photography. And look for a local photography group or club. That's a good way to find people who have similar passions as you and who will be happy to spend time doing the same thing that you want to do. And
you definitely can't beat having a group, a mentor, or a best friend that sits and talks photography with you. And I don't know how many times I've had other friends that just kind of glaze over and look at me like, just please shut up. I don't want to hear it anymore. Or why are you wasting your money on this stuff? Or that's just stupid. I've heard that one. It's not. If it's a passion, go for it. If it's a drive to be part of your income, or you want to provide service for other people, go for it. It's all out there. It's all possible. It just depends on what you align your life to do it. Just get out of your own way is what I always tell myself.
Yeah, and in all honesty, too, a lot of those people maybe don't know what it's like to have a passion. And I'm not saying this to be offensive to anybody, but I think people who say that aren't happy people. Like, why wouldn't you want to support somebody who's supposedly a friend or a family or whatnot? If in a hobby, especially, it's not something that's an unhealthy thing.
That's right. It probably helps us. We get out, we take pictures, we enjoy the sunlight. I mean, we could be hermits and never come out of the house. This all has given us the key to do a lot of things. I think we've had a lot of trips, a lot of adventures, with our group in the Midwest and here in Phoenix. We've gone out. I wouldn't know Phoenix if it wasn't for our photo group, because we went everywhere and we've done everything just based on this camera. So having that group, and if you can't find that group, I mean, please try to find that person-to-person, in-person kind of group. But there's there's internet forums, there's internet communities. Be careful. Don't get bogged down by the trolls. Don't listen to every piece of advice that everybody throws at you. But try to connect with someone. Try to get someone that you trust that would tell you the truth. That's the biggest thing. Tell me the truth. Do I need this lens, or does my picture stink? Tell me that. I want to hear it and I want to get better.
Yeah. And if you are in Phoenix, please look us up. If you're traveling and you're in Phoenix or traveling through Phoenix, look us up. We're on meetup.com. And we're also on our Facebook page. We post our events under Exploretography. But if you're not local here, our online community at Exploretography, It's a group.
On Facebook.
Yep. We are the what are they? Administrators?
Yes.
Yes, we're the administrators of it. So we're not going to tolerate bullying or that kind of negative talk in our group. We have a very positive group. So if you're looking for a place that has like weekly challenges and you want to ask questions, and you're not finding that, come over to our side. We'd be happy to have you.
Absolutely. If you're not finding the answer to your question, if you're struggling with something you don't understand, I mean, I've had multiple people ask me questions that it just took me putting it a different way, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I understand it now." You know, so if you're struggling with that, you know, if you don't have people that will sit down, spend some time talking with you, jump in that community group. We're all there to help you. Mary and I are active in it, so if you have a question, we're going to be answering your question for you as best we can, or we'll learn together.
Yeah. And just keep asking. You will get no's from people, but if you stop asking, then you're never going to get that information that you want. So don't let those negative people bring you down. You continue to be your biggest cheerleader. We're going to be there right beside you, cheering for you, because we know that you got this. Photography can bring you a lifetime of joy. It's a hobby that you can enjoy as you get older. So don't give up on it.
Absolutely. Just don't give up. Keep trying. Believe in yourself. We believe in you. And we'll be here to support you. So join our community.
Yeah.
Keep watching our videos. We'll keep talking. We appreciate everybody being around. We've kind of been a nonstop, non-edited, very much video. You've probably heard kids. You've probably heard the air conditioning. You've probably heard the rain. Probably a dog bark. But you're in our home, and we appreciate you being here, and we love talking photography with you.
Yeah, and if there's any other roadblocks that you feel that you're struggling with, let us know in the comments below, and we'd be happy to discuss those on another video. If you like this type of format where we're just kind of relaxing and chilling on a rainy Saturday night, then we'd be happy to do some more of these for you. But until next time,
get out there and explore,
create,
and do good.
Do good. Bye.
Bye.